Kia ora koutou, ko Monique Bradley tōku ingoa, he kai kōrero aho, I'm Monique Bradley, I am a storyteller. Welcome to Uncovering Authenticity, the podcast where we have people with big stories getting real. Today, he's got a big story to share, a lot of wisdom. It's Mr. Darren Pratley. Woo! I wish we had a big audience in here. And I say that every time. I'm delighted to have you here. Darren, you are a CSP, and for people who don't know what that is, let's tell the world what that is.
That's a certified speaking professional, and it's a designation that you get from the Australian Speakers Association, and what they do is they review some of your content, look at the work you've done over a number of years, and then if you are lucky enough and good enough to get yourself through, you get awarded this. So
in the speaking world, I look at you and I go, you're a big deal. And you're not just a big deal because of the energy. You have big energy, which I really love. And I love how you show up, which is what my podcast is about.
Nice.
But the value you give people. You are changing businesses through the stories that you share. Tell me about that.
I guess one of the things that I was lucky enough to be is someone who has high energy and enjoys working with people. And that's one of the things that I really appreciate. But one of the things that also I appreciate is the success that other people can have. And sometimes they just need a catalyst or someone that can take them down a path where it opens up that success that they already had in them, but they just haven't actually got to that point yet. And I look back in my career and there's a couple of times where I've met people that I go, wow, that was an opportunity that changed the course for me, but gave me an experience to realize what high performance was all about. And now I hope to share those learnings and my learnings to the people that I work with.
I love that. And that's one of the things I learned about you when I joined Professional Speakers Association. It's not what you said. You're a great speaker, and your speech at Professional Speakers was one of the ones where I want to call it my come to Jesus moment, where I need to take myself seriously as a speaker. It's what I do. What am I going to do about it? But it was this moment where other people were saying to me, you need to listen to Darren because he's got this great career, but he wants to empower other people to do well too. Now, that's not a typical Kiwi mindset, especially when we're fighting with tall poppy. Where do you think that came from?
Certainly remember a tall poppy, that's for sure. But I guess probably for me, it's about I've realised that I've been very privileged and very lucky to go on the journey that I've been in business. And for me to be able to share my insights, share some ideas, share proof of concept, because, you and I both know in the speaking environment, there's a lot of people have a lot of opinions about things that could be, might be, should be. Yeah. But actually what I've tried to do is to bring into my business things that actually work. I've seen it work. I've proven it works. And that's the stuff that I like to share because for me, I want people to come on that journey with me. I want them to be successful in whatever industry or sector they're in. Yes. And I think for me, the journey, especially around the speaking space, is being able to share what works and encouraging people to do it.
Beautiful. Love, 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 love. I know from my work as a speaking coach as well and teaching people to tell better business stories.
Love it. One
of the exercises that most of us in that area do is go back to 6-year-old self and remember who that was, and let's play around with the why you pretended to be who you were going to become. Who was 6-year-old Darren?
6-year-old Darren was a pretty quiet kid who pretty much just lived his life in the shadow of everybody else, really. I just was a kid that, went through life and wouldn't say a star in academic, and I was not really a star in sport, and actually through probably the one concept for me was hard work. So for hard work for me was just part of what I grew up with. If I wanted to be better at school, I had to work harder. If I wanted to be better at sport, I actually had to work harder. And that pretty much became probably a motto for what I've done in most of my careers is if you want to get a better result, you have to work hard.
I totally agree. And even pre this podcast today, that's the conversation we were having, is about how people want to achieve success.
Yeah.
And they're sitting there waiting for it to happen. And they're still waiting and they're still waiting. What about the hard mahi you have to do to actually get in the way of opportunity, as an example. Get yourself out there, make success happen, right?
Totally. And I just go, in my presentation, the one word that I put up at the start of every presentation, no matter what industry, is the word implementation, right? Because I encourage every audience to go, actually, from the content we've got here, what are you actually going to do with it? Because you and I have sat in lots of conferences where we hear a massive amount of speakers give us really good content. And then the first thing we think about when we leave the room is, I wonder if there's sauce with the sausage rolls. Instead of the actual fact of this content is going to change my life, my business, my career, whatever it is, what am I actually going to do with it? And by the time you get back to your office, it ends up in a pile of paper. Yeah. And then you end up in a situation where you go, well, actually, what am I going to do? I've forgotten it. I'm not actually doing anything with it.
So when it comes to implementation then, what are the key steps, or do people need to book you for their conferences to learn that? What do you think are some key steps that people can do straight away to make change?
So a couple of key things. One is where you're going and why you're going there. So get a clear vision on what your plan is and what your future is going to look like, and actually define it a bit, because one of the hardest things to hit is actually something you're not aiming for. So I go, just get a plan in place of what your vision needs to look like, and then put a plan about how to get it. And then once you've got that structure in place, work and develop your day-to-day activity towards those key components. Because as soon as you do that, you stop the marketplace or your environment dictating what you do. And this is the big trick, right? Because I tell you what, in your business, I know that I can make you busy 40 hours a week and probably 60 and make you no money. But you will be busy.
Did it for years.
But you'll be busy, right? So the challenge to us now is to go, okay, what we actually have to do here is to get really clear on where we spend our time and what creates our result towards our plan and our vision of where we need to go. And that's the doing.
Yeah, I love that. And when you break it down like that, Darren, it makes so much sense.
But you think about today, you think about our mobile phone, you think about what goes on in our households, what goes on in our businesses. There are so many distractions. There's so many things that takes our time and decisions and priorities away from where they need to be because it's important or I'm busy.
Well, that's the truth. And then I also find that a lot of people I speak to in the business arena, they got into business because they're good at something, and now they've realised they need to become their own marketing department. So all of their time is spent doing their marketing, which never even guarantees you're going to get sales.
100%.
So it's like, where do you find that happy medium?
And this is the piece where when you run a business, you have to understand that you need to take on the role of CEO of your business and spend some time sitting in a CEO's chair in your business to go, actually, what are the areas of my business? Which departments need to do what role? And then each week analyze whether that particular department in your business has done their role. Because if you've spent all your time in the marketing department, what's happened in your sales department?
So good.
Well, they haven't had any resource in there because you've used it all in marketing.
Love it. It's so clear when you place it, I can't even, I'm overwhelmed.
So once you get that structure in place, once you get that plan in place, all of a sudden you start as a self-employed business owner knowing exactly where to spend your time. And I talk to CEOs in bigger businesses all the time, go, just think about where you need to spend your time in which departments to create you the outcome or the result that you're looking for. Don't get suckered by the market dictating or the business dictating where you're spending your time. You decide where you need to spend your time to get the best result possible.
Beautiful. So just jumping into your business as well, because that's solid advice. And obviously you'd do the same thing in your own business,
For
right?
Sure. Yep.
How did you become a speaker?
So I was doing some work for a company and they said to me, would I come and speak at their conference? So I said, yes, no problem. So I went and spoke at the conference. There was about 500 people in the room, stood up on stage, spoke for an hour. And at the end of the session was lunch. So I finished my session, got off the stage, and there would have been about 5 or 6 people standing at the end of the stage going, well, could you come and do some work for us?
Wow.
And I had that moment where I was like, I know I was from financial services and I'd kind of done every role within financial services, and I decided that actually this could be my new journey. So we had a bit of a think about it, and then the following Friday I walked into the boss's office and said, I'm going to resign and I'm finishing up and I'm going to be a speaker.
How did your boss take it?
Yeah, no, he was good. He was fine. He was still looked at me with a bit of shock, but it was like that became my journey. And yeah, sort of from that opportunity was, sitting down at the kitchen table with Jules and those days Emma, my PA. We sat down and looked at each other and were like, right, we better make this thing work.
Wow. So within a week,
yeah,
you'd made that change.
Well, it was kind of one that I just sort of looked at and was like, I had some experience in speaking in the roles that I had before, but not that I would consider to be my own business. And then, but the more I started to feel comfortable with it, but B, to see the need. And so I also looked at it from the perspective that I've sat in many conferences listening to many speakers, right? And some of them have got great stories that you can take components out of. Some are industry specialists that are really good at what they do, and you take content for those. But one of the things that I realized was the ability for us to be able to create training, keynote speeches that actually resonate with the audience, that gives them content that they can actually take back to their job, either this afternoon or tomorrow, and actually apply to their role to change their result was probably a key skill or attribute of mine, and that was the piece that we've gone with. And the bit that I love is being able to go into businesses now and actually support the owners or support the managers to actually help their teams get a better result. And you know what it's like if you get into a team that's all of a sudden doing really well.
Well, that's brilliant, right?
It's fun.
It's absolutely brilliant.
Yeah.
So because a lot of people, when I talk to them about the fact that I'm a speaker and an MC, I get this look from people who are like, no, what do you do for an actual real job?
For sure.
And it's quite hard to translate that this is, I stand on a stage, I talk to people, talk to rooms of people. What does a day in your life look like?
So now it's pretty much, it'd probably be out of bed at 5:45 in the morning. I drive to the airport, jump on a plane. I'll fly somewhere in New Zealand or be somewhere in Auckland potentially, but generally fly somewhere, do what I need to do, so present, and then I'll head back to the airport, jump back on the plane again and fly home. So I have a rule in my business where possible that I try and be home every night. So I'll fly somewhere. But New Zealand's quite a small place, so generally an hour on the plane will get you pretty much everywhere. So so for me, it's about, being out in the marketplace each day and then being home at night with the family. So
that's so cool.
Yeah.
So this podcast is about authenticity.
Yep.
And particularly when you're dealing with industries, I'm not going to name the industries, there's a perception of how personas turn up in each industry.
Yep.
You are, I want to say unapologetically, but I mean this in the nice way. You are unapologetically always Darren, regardless of who you're speaking to, regardless of if you're here having a cup of tea or a coffee, or you're out speaking in front of people. There is this persona that you are 100% of all the time. What do you think creates this Darren, this authentic Darren that shows up, that people feel they can connect to, that they can have a laugh with, that they could have you round for a beer, or they could have you in coaching their teams in their business?
Great question. Probably the big one for me on this one would be, it hasn't always been that way. So I lived my life in an environment where you always wanted to make sure that the environment saw you in a particular way, so that I would always turn up making sure I was seen as professional. I would follow the party line. I'd make sure that I did. But in life, you go through experiences, and then there's a point where sometimes that you get the learning where you go, actually, do you know what? This is who I am. This is who I need to be. And if I need to have a difficult conversation with a client or a team member within that, I'm much better to have those tough conversations and actually be authentic to what is right and what it needs to be in the situation, rather than necessarily just toe the party line. And I guess now that has really led me to being me all of the time, because I just go, now I can just do what I know is right and what should be happening, and it works. And I really love that. And especially when I'm working now with clients that, they've got challenges in their businesses, and sometimes these challenges have been in their businesses for a long period of time. So to have a catalyst come in and go, actually, let's just have a conversation about this particular issue that I know is here, and we need to fix this. You've got a sales manager who's been in the business for 2 years and your sales are going down. What are we changing? Or we've got a marketing department that's costing you lots and lots of money, but your brand isn't getting out there to the market. So let's just have these conversations in your business and actually work out what's going to create more success.
Oh, So good. Oprah would call that a mic drop moment. And I'm always looking for those moments in every one of these interviews.
Yeah.
So for anybody who is thinking of becoming a speaker, just coming back to this industry that we're in, what would you tell them? What advice would you give them?
There's so much opportunity. There's so much opportunity. But one of the things that I think a lot of people get into the speaking industry is because they want to tell their story, or it could be out of that dreaded ego word, because they want to be seen on stage. But I think one of the things, if you can get your head around that you've got content or information that helps other people and helps them on their journey, and you can be really focused on delivering that, that's what gets you into this industry. Because you and I have heard a lot of people tell about their story. And the challenge that I have with that is, that's their story, but take the learnings from those stories and then now apply it to the audience or the group of people that you're working with, and that creates the value. So I really encourage people coming into the speaking industry now to be really, really clear on exactly how their message relates to their clients. And as soon as you get that, you will actually have a career.
Oh, so good, so good. So if people want to connect with you,
yes,
how can they do that?
Just go to my website, www.darrenpratley.com, or they can connect with me on Facebook, or just ring the office and or ring me, and we're more than happy to have a chat.
Oh, I love it. I love it. Well, thank you, sir, for coming to the studio. And it's been an absolute delight, as always, unpacking real stories, real life, real business, real everything. That's what it's all about. I am Monique Bradley. Darren, thank you so much for joining me.
So welcome.